Hey there. Here I am eating M&M's again. Seriously. Shadow and child. They just gotta have their way. And M&M's are the way for a moment. So let's talk about core wounds. It's said in a lot of different teachings. Maybe not tons of them, but that our first core trauma in this incarnation occurs when we are in the womb of our mother. Not everybody knows the stories of what their parents were going through, but I was blessed to know that because my mom shared with me a lot of stuff, just like I do with my teenager, that was really preparing me for what I'm doing right now, and being able to identify patterns when they occurred in my life, remembering that my mom told me the story, and at a certain point I'm like, am I making this happen in my life because she told me that and I'm creating it with my thoughts? Or is it an imprint? Well, it's probably both, but more so an imprint. As for me, when I was in my mother's womb, one thing I do know happened, or almost happened, is that I guess her father wanted her to have an abortion, which thank goodness she didn't. But the kind of emotions that would imprint within the child, being carried with a mother not feeling supported or loved, or like a mother should feel when they're bringing a new life into the world in any way, really. I know she got actually emancipated at 16, but of course she didn't have me for 4 more years, and she had my brother like a year before that. Anyway, while I was in her tummy, she was in love with 2 people, not at the same time, but she had loved and married my brother's father. Pretty big entanglement there, and there was a huge traumatic thing that created the separation initially. I do also understand that after she made me with my father, she, don't mind my daughter out there going cray cray, expressing her shadow, but my brother, who, my mother ended up falling in love with my brother's father, and it does turn out that I do believe that at some point she ended up traveling while pregnant with me to go and see my brother and maybe try and make family stuff work. I'm not really sure how all that went down, but none of it went down. The father that was my father was in and out of jail, and then ended up in prison when I was a toddler, and he was there until I was 16. And the ripples, I can see definitively how the patterns of my life dictated that. It dictated, and in my upbringing, that's a whole nother ball game right there, but we're just sticking to the core wound here. It all dictated feelings of abandonment, of not feeling supported, not feeling good enough, feeling kind of like on the edge of life, really. But not in like a really bad way, but I created a lot of sickness in my body. It didn't help that I had all the trauma that I was storing in there, but these core wounds are real, man. And especially around this time of year, we go through a lot of clearing. And right now there's a lot more stuff going on universally and energetically in the world than a lot of people are consciously aware of. It hasn't been brought quite to their attention. I know there's probably a lot of people that don't know much of anything that have probably noticed things are just a little bit different, but they can't quite pinpoint how. And then there's people like me that can feel, see, and, well, maybe not see, but you know what I mean. See everything that's going on. And it took me down a really dark little trail. I'm sure you guys can see from my last videos that I was creating all sorts of forms of myself, reflections of me, as mind-blowing as that might seem, to open the wounds that could have possibly existed and still had little bits of stuff that needed to be processed and seen. And it's just beautiful to be able to see how that's what's going on, and it gives you this sense of power, like, okay, that explains that. So now it's about making new conscious choices that would not recreate that ripple and would actually be going towards what you say you actually want, but somehow don't end up doing that because you end up in that loop, you know, which is a very strong magnetic pull. And then sometimes you have people in your life that are still in that timeline and that place, and their energy is there, so it just automatically pulls your energy back there if you haven't fully understood who and what you are and how worthy you are to be chosen and supported and loved and seen for who you really, really are, and not for who their perceptual reality has made you in their illusion, so to speak. Anyway, do some research. Find out if the things you're really stuck on started before you. Maybe even before the womb, you know, because a lot of times we'll notice that the things we're working out are stuff that our family, even if they're still here, are still trying to work through, because it's an energy ripple and it's in the DNA, and it's in the energy field. It's all it is. So I love you guys. Have a good night.